The Independent National Electoral Commission has expressed concern about the challenges it is facing as it prepares for the 2023 elections. The INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, while appearing before the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, said that the recent flooding across the nation had destroyed no fewer than 20 offices of the commission. The chairman of the electoral umpire, while appearing before the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters to defend the budget proposed by the commission in the 2023 appropriation bill, said the development had forced the agency to begin to look for new office spaces in new locations in some states. Joining us now to discuss INEC's worries over challenges to conducting hitch-free 2023 general elections is Arise News analyst Kayode Otitoju. Great to have you on Newsday. Warm welcome again.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, let's get straight into it. 20 offices, no less than 20 offices have been affected by the flooding, and this is compounded by over 1 million people, those are the official numbers anyway, that have been displaced by the floods as well. What's the way forward? Because these are big numbers. We're now at the eve of an election.
I think human activities or organization plans are either bedeviled by whatever mistakes one makes, or by act of God, or what we call act of Queen's enemy. But since there is no more queens now, maybe act of King's enemy, which means force majeure, or unexpected. So I think INEC has been circumventing so many problems, and which was within their own purview to handle. But when act of God comes, it becomes a real calamity. The flood, when it came, it has displaced some of their workers. It has taken over some of their offices and spoiling, damaging some of their equipment. So he has to cry out. In preparation for the election, he has done what ought to be done by conducting training, by having, conferences, and by working with Mr. President in areas of the redesigning the currency. Bill, 200 bill, 500 and 1,000 bill. It was done, I wasn't there, but I presume it was done in conjunction with the central bank governor in order to see to vote buying, because Mr. President is bent on an election that is credible, and that is. So, apart from that, INEC, Mr. President, and the police. They had Mr. President was at the police summit in Nemo, and the theme was credible election that will be free of violence. And you get my point. So all these have been in place. Again, the inauguration of the tribunal, the justices that will handle the tribunal, okay? Then, and the justices that will listen to complaints arising from election. So all these were within human, ability to do. But when flood comes, so how do we now get prepared and recuperate from the calamity in preparation for an election that is less than 110 days to come? So he has to tender probably additional budget to the House of Rep committee on appropriation, and I'm sure it will still meet the Senate too, so that they can approve expeditiously before the time, so that nothing goes wrong. Maybe they have to build some offices, you have to replace some equipment. When they were doing the review, of what they lost to
SARS protests.
And some other SARS, and there was something,
That's fine.
No, I have to.
Okay.
SARS, and where are you now?
All right. Well,
SARS and SARS, unknown gunmen in the southeast, insurgents in the north, flooding of offices. By that time, in May last year, when they were doing the review, they had already lost 11 offices, 1,105 ballot boxes, 694 voting cubicles, 429 electric generating sets, and 13 utility vehicles, otherwise known as Toyota Hilux. So all this have to be replaced. More that had to be bought due to the unforeseen flooding that took place, the last 2 months. So these are the problem, and these are the challenges. And I'm sure they always say when there is, hope, then when there is way, there is...
And where there's will, there's way.
Where there is life, there is hope.
When there is will, there is way.
So I was having a discussion with one of our colleagues outside regarding this, and he said there's ample time for the replacement to be made. But I just wondered, of course, ample time is relative. To some, it might look like there's enough time for all these issues to be resolved, and it might look like it's too close to the time. Do you foresee any situation whereby we might have a postponement of the elections?
I think Mr. President is bent on having it at scheduled time. Ditto the chairman of Electoral Commission. I think whatever it takes, it will be given. And that was why it was with the Committee on Appropriation, just to let them get ready and preempt, the unforeseen this. And really, there are some materials that will still have to be bought, maybe imported, and some of them with lead time of over 2 months. So those ones can, give room for concern, because at times when you think it will take just 2 months to order and get the order and get everything, clearing from the port or airport and whatever, at times what you never contemplated could happen, and which may affect it. But 90 days before the election, I think with the determination, everything will be put in place.
Mr. Otitoju, so here are the concerns. I want to quote President Joe Biden, who last week, when he was speaking on the American midterm elections, he said democracy is at the ballot. And I think it resonates with Nigeria, with this coming election, where we can truly say that democracy is on the ballot in the 2023 general election. Now, when the Electoral Commission is speaking of damages from End SARS protests, which were in 2020, fine, the floods were an act of God. That's a recent development. But there's concern when we're talking about damage and loss of property from 2020, 2 years ago, when we all knew that there was an election coming in 2023. It is concerning. And to add to that, there are 600 cases relating to the conduct of primaries and nomination of candidates that are still going through the courts. Now, the primaries were in June. Well, rather, the deadline for the primaries was June. It's now November, again, 2023 was no surprise to us. Now, how will the public gain confidence in the efficiency and expediency and general good faith of the work being done by INEC if these processes are not a topmost priority, especially in budget allocations? We can't speak of problems with clearing and importing and so forth. At this stage, we really can't be talking about those things because this is a national priority. Democracy is on the ballot. So how does the average Nigerian gain faith in the process and in the Electoral Commission when there are these types of challenges?
I'm optimistic that the election will take place come February 2023. That there are about 600 cases pending, due to the last primaries. The Chief Justice of the Federation had already inaugurated, the Electoral Complaint Commission. And he has already, again, inaugurated the electoral offenses or electoral petition tribunals, which will take care of all this. Since once it is not left for the normal court, which is, not so fast, history. Once these are specialized tribunals and commissions, they will treat the cases expeditiously, just as what we had in, East Africa.
In Kenya.
In Kenya, that within 14 days, many things were decided, initiated and decided. So I'm sure with what we have here, some of those things will be dispelled with. And some of them have time, definite time, Even in our own electoral judicial system, they have definite time when a case must come in. And once it doesn't come in within that time, then it's regarded as time barred. So let's have the hope. I'm so optimistic. The reason being that the person that can make one lose hope is the president. And that is the person that is most, enthusiastic about having a credible election. And he has been singing it at international levels. So,
well said, Mr. Otitoju. Of course, while the INEC chairman was listing these challenges, with the offices being damaged and equipment, he also mentioned what you brought up, the fact that the parliament, needs to pass that bill that seeks to establish the Electoral Offences Commission, which you mentioned earlier, and tribunal before the end of the 9th National Assembly. Of course, that ends in June, but he was not specific about if this law would be enforced before the 2023 elections. So I'm just wondering what you think the appropriate timing would be.
I like Professor Mahmoud for something. Really, when he wants to get things done, he knows how to use persuasive words. Okay? If you see how he was praising the rep for passing the Electoral Bill 2020, Electoral Act 2022, and that it will be a thing of joy if you can get the Electoral Offences Commission in place before the end of the 9th, National Assembly. With that, they would like to have it that it was during their own time that the Electoral Offences, Commission is put in place. Though it may not meet the election of February 2023, but it will be there because after the election in February, they still have about 3 or 4 months to stay in the office.
And still talking about things that have tight timelines, another big discussion that's been happening in the public space is around the instant public sharing of results from various polling centers. Now, of course, there's two schools of thought. INEC came and said that they're concerned about this instant uploading and public sharing of results because what if there's an error? However, on the public side, people are saying, well, we need to see these results. They must be shared online, similar to what happened in Kenya. Let results be transmitted immediately and publicly. Do you think these are things we'll be able to tidy up? And of course, this is a big thing when we're speaking of credible, free and fair elections. And as you've said, Mr. President is committed to credible, free and fair elections. And this would be a very big contribution in gaining public confidence in the results that are coming in. So what are your thoughts on these instant uploading and sharing of results from individual polling units as they're released?
The Beavers and the RV had already answered the question. And it has been tested. They have been tested. The two equipment have been tested during the Osun Ekiti and Osun Ekiti election. Okay? And once the Beavers handle the accreditation and capture the voters, okay? Then the election is transmitted to the RV, okay? Immediately. But there is still time lag and there is still a certain break in the chain, which is getting what is captured by Beavers into a form before it's uploaded to the RV. That area still requires human intervention and many things can still go wrong. Because if Beavers capture, say, 100 units and you have about 100 papers that will be uploaded or captured and transmitted to RVs. And instead of 100, someone, if the electoral agents, if the party agents are not vigilant, and through connivance, it's written 150. And that means 150 is what will be transmitted. So I pray and I hope that in due course, and even if possible before February, that there will be direct transmission of the voters' record from Beavers to RV so that there won't be any room for manipulation at all.
Very well said. We hope so too. Arise news analyst, Mr. Kayode Otitoju, thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.